Good evening, everyone. I've spent 2 hours with your daughters this afternoon, and it was really lovely. They've got such energy. I travelled to lots of schools, and it was really awesome to be with them this afternoon. You know, I started with them by, and I want to start the same as with you. I've spoken to about 100,000 Year 11 and 12 students over the last 10 years. Sounds like a lot, but it's not much when there's a few hundred students in a year group 2-3 times a week. Over 10 years, it quickly adds up. And what's been interesting to me is that for the last 10 years, I've asked the same two questions of Year 11 and 12 students. I ask, how do you react when you think of the HSC? And your daughters this afternoon answered no differently to any of the groups I've spoken to in the last 10 years. Overwhelmingly, well over 90% responded negatively to this. Worry, stress, anxiety, pressure, those sorts of things. And I have to tell you, I'm on a mission to try to change this. My daughter started high school this year. As you heard, I've been a high school teacher. And I personally, honestly think there's something seriously wrong with what we're doing when our children are starting school, high school, and they're in fear, because most of the work I do is with teachers. I have a program called the Accidental Counsellor, just teaching school staff how to respond to students in distress. As a trained counsellor, obviously teachers and school staff are not trained in that area, but I do a lot of work also with students, but 3 year groups. When they enter high school, year 7, usually that happens in term 1. We have this program called Big Fish, Little Fish. And then year 11 and 12 students as they're leaving, yeah? And what's been interesting to me over the last 10 years is even with our year 7 students, I ask 2 questions of them when we start the presentation. They're different. I ask them, what are you happy about? What are you excited about when it comes to high school in year 7? And they say, making new friends. The second question is, what are you worried about high school? What are you worried about when it comes to starting year 7 in high school? And you know, for the last 8 or 9 years, overwhelmingly, it's been they're fearful of losing friends and being teased and bullied and those sorts of issues. And this year, I started seeing a change last year, but this year, more than ever, I've noticed that year 7 students are not saying that they're worried about being teased and bullied, which is a good thing. But now it's been overtaken with they're worried about homework and schoolwork and assignments. This is in year 7. There's a whole bunch of research that is saying that my program to year 12 is called the HSC Happiness Advantage. It comes from positive psychology. Sean Acor wrote the book, The Happiness Advantage, and he was a lecturer at Harvard. You'll see a little bit of this in our talk tonight. And he was a lecturer at Harvard, and of course in Harvard you get the best of the best all around the country and the world turn up there, and they turn up and all of a sudden they realise, oops, I'm not as good as what I thought I was, because there's a lot of smart cookies, around the place. And so what would happen was with these students in Harvard is that they would work harder, study more. They would not go out. They wouldn't socialise. They wouldn't have a balance. And what Sean discovered was that their academic performance suffered. There is a lot of research now that links well-being to performance. And that's one of the things that I specialise in and that I work with year 11 and 12 students. So they say to me that overwhelmingly, and same here as I hear every year when I come here and every other school, it's a negative experience, year 11 and 12. And then I say to them, well, tell me, what do you hear in the culture about the message of the HSC? And overwhelmingly, I hear, as I did here this afternoon, that the HSC will set you up for your future. Of course, it's at that point that I told the girls this afternoon, I didn't do my HSC. I said, are you jealous? Of course, they went, yes. So I said to them, I turned 52 this year, and I tell you that just to put you in the time frame. If those of you who are my vintage, you'll understand, back in the early 80s, the only reason you'd ever do year 11 and 12 was to go to university, right? The whole thing back then was, let's just get them into work. And of course you could work in the police force and the bank and a whole bunch of different things that times have changed, right? You can't do that now. I did teaching for work experience, but my head of year and careers counsellor said to me, look, we think you're going to struggle in year 11 and 12. You've done well in commerce. Why don't you just go get a job in the bank? My parents, good Italian immigrants, came out after the Second World War. They were illiterate. They were not educated in Italy. They came out here. They weren't educated here either. My brother and I are the only two people in our family who have a tertiary qualification. I don't accept at all that the HSC will determine your future. I said to your daughters this afternoon, I hope I haven't created some angst at home with that statement. I said to the girls this afternoon, you determine your future. And more importantly, your character determines your future, your ability to persevere through difficulty, your ability to have courage and face your fears, your ability to delay gratification and be disciplined, to do something even though you don't feel like doing right now. Your ability to absolutely do your best no matter what, even you'll never settle for this will do. And of course I told them the story of when I did start university when I was 30 years of age. After spending 3 years working, I actually got a job in the ANZ Bank in Burwood, not far from here. My head of year said to me, look, it's okay, just you've done well in commerce, go get a job in the bank, and if you don't, come back and you can do year 11 and 12 here. So because I had no role models, my parents were uneducated, I thought, well, he's right, I probably am going to struggle, and if I can get a job and get paid, I could buy a car, and my 16-year-old brain thought I should just go and get a job in the bank. And I did. The ANZ Bank employed me, but I only lasted a few years. I didn't really like it. And so I left and thought, what will I do? Well, what were my role models? My parents. They had fruit and veggie stores, as good Italian immigrants did, And so I thought, well, I'll open up a shop, but not fruit and veg, but sport. And I remember taking $17 of sales one day. I said to the girls this afternoon I could write a book easily of failure after failure after failure in my life. The most successful people on the planet, what I've come to see when I research them, is one of the things I research is peak performance, is that they celebrate quote unquote failures. They don't even see it as a failure. They see it as information. And unfortunately, our young people today are attaching who they are as human beings to the results they get at school. And in my mind, it's disastrous. The message they're hearing in the culture is that the HSC determines your future. Now, no wonder if they really believe this, they turn up and we're having a whole bunch of negative responses to that question. And what we know is if they're walking around with stress and worry and depression and anxiety and all of those things, there's no way they're going to be able to perform at their best. I said to them, we need some stress. Not all stress is bad, but when we have high levels over prolonged periods of time, well, of course, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. That's not going to help you perform at your best. You see, the problem as I see it is that our whole culture around the HSC is really around results. It's become an obsessive thing. After the results come out, you just look at the media and they rank schools based on their HSC results. I want to tell you something, as a parent, that's no way to rank a school based on their HSC results. There are many more things involved, like what's their ability to improve their students. We're not hearing the tail, in other words, students that dropped off. We hear the few that might get at the top. That's what you see in the newspapers. You don't get a full portrait of a school. And my friend who's been a teacher for 25 years told me that at the beginning of the year, the school he was working at in Western Sydney, the teachers there, the principal was really unhappy because their HSC results were poor. And he said to me what the principal didn't speak about was another statistic, and that was that 60% of our students, he said to me, leave our school, make it into university, and don't even finish the first year. No, I don't accept one bit that the HSC will determine your future, is what I told your daughters. That there's more to it than that. Here's the other problem. When we become obsessed with results, when we think that I didn't do well, I can't do this. They might think that's a fail, I'm a failure. Not only that, they'll do poorly in one subject, let's just say it's history, math, whatever it is, and then they think that they can't do the entire subject. So I said to them, you need to get a proper perspective on your results. And this is what I shared with them. Your results indicate three things. One, your ability, your effort in that subject at that time. That's it. That's what it's about. So my daughter, of course, when she started high school this year, when she was in primary school, you got any students in primary school? Got a primary school student? Do you remember the NAPLAN thing? So my daughter, you know that you walk through the shopping centres, the news agencies, they've got the book stands and they've the NAPLAN books, yeah? So my daughter says to me, Daddy, can you buy me one of those NAPLAN books? I buy her books all the time. I want her to read. I said to her, why do you want this NAPLAN book? She goes, all my friends have it. I said, well, that's not a good enough reason. Why do you want it? And she said, well, they're all studying for the NAPLAN and I've got to study for it. And I said, no, you don't have to worry about that. She said, what? And I said, it's not that important. She said, why are you not like all the other normal parents? I said to her, what do you think this NAPLAN thing does? She said, I don't know. And I said, let me tell you. You're going to go and you're going to read some stuff. You're going to do some stuff in this NAPLAN thing. And then 6 months later, we're going to get something in the post. And it's going to tell me how you went 6 months ago. I don't care. I want to know how you're going now. That's all that is. But then all of a sudden, you know what I see parents do? My son's a band 6 in maths. No, he was. He was a band 6 months ago. How's he going now, right? And I just think we're becoming too obsessed about results. And the worst part about it is that the results form an identity with our students. Like I keep saying, I can, I can't, I failed, that means I'm a failure. Now that is disastrous, because if you look at these quotes, when it comes to identity beliefs, how one sees oneself, Ziegler says you can't perform consistently in a manner which is inconsistent with how you see yourself. And Cialdini says a similar thing. The strongest need in the human personality is to remain consistent with how you've defined yourself. So if we have a poor result and all of a sudden we're just taking that on board as who we are, that is undermining and sabotaging our young people's ability to perform at their very, very best. So it creates these identity beliefs and also creates a fear of failure, this obsession about results. They're so fearful of failure that then they will do anything to avoid pain. And so if you think that your daughter's maybe a little lazy, I might suggest to you that it's not laziness, it's the fact that they want to avoid pain. They think that doing this might produce failure, so they want to try to avoid it, right? And of course, it goes without saying that all of that leads to poor performance. What we need to do, and by the way, it looks like this. So there's, all of this is in your booklet here, and by the way, your daughters have this, and this is slide 8 if you wanted to follow along. So remember this identity belief we spoke about? This feeds our self-talk, our thoughts. I can, I can't, I'm not good enough, I'm good enough. You know what I'm talking about. And these thoughts and self-talk, of course, that has an influence on our emotional state. Worried, stressed, anxious, confident, motivated, engaged. And how you're feeling drives your behaviour and the actions you take. So we have an obsession about results. It produces this fear of failure, this identity of who we are, just based on our results, when really it's just a snapshot of how you're going at that time. Your ability, your effort, your attitude in that subject at that time. That's all it shows. Not who you are as a human being, but believe it or not, our young people, they make that association. So it forms identity beliefs. What we need to be doing is we've got to actually focus on the process of performance. That's the secret. Not the result, not the A, the 90, no. It's what do you need to do to get the A, the 90. So this year, my daughter starts high school and knows one girl in the 190 girls at her high school. I said to her, one of the ways to make friends is to get involved in the activities of the school. What do you love? She says, dancing and public speaking. So in the first 2 weeks of her school, what an amazing school she goes to, by the way. In the first 2 weeks of her school, she has the opportunity to trial for a dance performance, to get into be selected in a dance team for the school, and to also be selected in a public speaking team for the school. She's actually speaking tonight in her first public speaking performance. But to do that, she needed to present a 30-second speech. So we're driving, and in the car, what does she start saying? Daddy, what if it's no good? What if they don't like it? What if I don't get selected? And where is her focus? Like for most students, on the result, on the outcome. And I say to her, you're focusing on the wrong thing. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, how about you focus on creating a 30-second speech that's going to rock that room? How about that? What do you need to do? What has to be in that speech to make it really pop, make it really fire, make it really stand out? Now I'm getting her focus, and she starts saying, well, I need to get a metaphor in the speech. Awesome. What metaphor do you think you want? Now we're talking the real talk. Now we're talking the dynamics, the mechanics of what I have to do, the process of performance, not the will I, won't I. Will I get selected, will I not get selected? Will I like it, will I not? That is not going to serve you. When we focus on the process of performance, we're not hooking our results to who we are. We have a much more positive sense of self. With that positive sense of self, we then start forming a happiness advantage. And it's like I said when we started, the happiness advantage from positive psychology, all of the studies are now showing that when young people and adults are the same, when we focus on our well-being, it enhances peak performance. So all of the elite athletes, all the elite sporting teams, they know that. Recovery is very important in elite sporting teams. The ability to make sure they have a balance. How many times have you heard that if an elite athlete's private life is not going well, that's going to translate onto the sporting field, right? So maintaining their happiness and well-being is very, very important. This enhances engagement and leads to personal best performance. So this happiness advantage, I told you about Sean Akel, the lecturer at Harvard. So here's a little video clip from Sean. I just need to warn you, he speaks really fast. Every time I show this video, people complain. They go, he speaks too fast. It was at a TED talk, and I think they needed to really condense it. And so I just wanted to give you a little heads up and a little warning, and probably a little bit of advice to say, if he's speaking really fast, try to listen faster, okay?
The absence of disease is not health. Here's how we get to health. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this: if I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is, it's scientifically broken and backwards for two reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But the real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than it does at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves. Your brain at positive is 31% more productive than your brain at negative, neutral, or stressed. You're 37% better at sales. Doctors are 19% faster, more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis when positive instead of negative, neutral, or stressed, which means we can reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, then our brains work even more successfully as we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. What we need to be able to do is to reverse this formula so we can start to see what our brains are actually capable of. Because dopamine, which floods into your system when you're positive, has two functions. Not only does it make you happier, it turns on all the learning centers in your brain, allowing you to adapt to the world in a different way. We found that there are ways you can train your brain to be able to become more positive. In just a 2-minute span of time, done for 21 days in a row, we can actually rewire your brain, allowing your brain to actually work more optimistically and more successfully. We've done these things in research now in every single company that I've worked with, getting them to write down 3 new things that they're grateful for 21 days in a row, 3 new things each day. And at the end of that, their brain starts to retain a pattern of scanning the world not for the negative, but for the positive first. Journaling about one positive experience you've had over the past 24 hours allows your brain to relive it. Exercise teaches your brain that your behavior matters. We find that meditation allows your brain to get over the cultural ADHD that we've been creating by trying to do multiple tasks at once, and allows our brains to focus on the task at hand. And finally, random acts of kindness or conscious acts of kindness. We get people, when they open up their inbox, to write one positive email praising or thanking somebody in their social support network. And by doing these activities and by training your brain, just like we train our bodies, what we found is we could reverse the formula for happiness and success, and in doing so, not only create ripples of positivity, but create a real revolution.
Spoke fast, didn't he? Did you catch some of it? I liked a few things in that video. One of the things I really loved was his whole idea of we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon. In my language, as a therapist of 20 years, what I've seen in human beings and what I've seen in myself is the human delusion. I'll be happy when. I can't be happy now, in the future. When I have more money, when I have this, when I've got that, when my relationship. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong. What I'm saying is, if it can only be in the future, that means the only thing we have is now, and you're missing that part, right? And so I really liked that. But I also liked some of the ideas that came from positive psychology. You'll see this on slide 15. I did this with the girls this afternoon. You can really follow up with them on this. What's been remarkable is, and you've heard of this, I know you have, is the gratitude practice. So we call it the 3 good things. And I actually got the girls to write down 3 good things that happened for them today and to share it with the other girls in the group, right? So we have a little bit of a ritual in my place where, we, towards the end of the night, I think we've got some more handouts. Yes, please, yes. Great, thank you. So we sit down and we do, believe it or not, just 1 minute of mindfulness, and then we share one thing we appreciate about one another or something that went really well in the day for us. Our brains are wired for negativity. The part of the brain called the amygdala, just from our prehistoric times, it's got to stand on guard and make sure that everything's okay. And to train your brain to look for the good is an extraordinarily powerful thing to do. I see this and I'm inspired when people have experienced crisis. A really good example would be natural disasters. You get the TV crews turn up, floods or fires, and people might have lost everything, and devastation. And in the midst of talking about this loss and devastation, what do they say to the reporter? It's just amazing how the community's rallied around. People who have had the worst losses, the worst devastation in their lives, are really inspiring when you see how they try to make a contribution back to society, how they look for the good. And we can train that just like we can train muscles in our body. So gratitude is an important part, the 3 good things. See how you can implement it into your family routine. The other thing that, he spoke about several things in there we're going to cover today, is kindness. There's slide 16, I think that is. And Martin Seligman, who was the he was the founder of positive psychology. He spoke about this at a conference.
If you're depressed right now, the one single thing which will give you a temporary boost is to go out and help another person.
The act of kindness. So what I asked the girls to do is to identify, I said to them, write down a day of the week. Let's start with tomorrow. And slide 16, if you say, show me your notes from this afternoon, you'll see that they did this. So they wrote down the day of the week, If they don't show you this, it's probably because they may have identified you. Then I said, identify one person you're going to be kind. Who's the person you're going to be kind to? And then write down the action. What are you going to do? Is it going to be a thank you, a hug, or what are you going to do? What act of kindness? So when we think about acts of kindness, the research shows be conscious about it. Think forward about it. So plan about it. So it's what day of the week, who's the person, what am I going to do? The simpler, the easier, the better. So it means that we can do it easily rather than big, extravagant and elaborate things. On slide 17, I also shared with the girls the Healthy Mind Platter. We spoke about sleep. It's remarkable when I speak to teachers all around the country and young people how sleep is becoming an issue. Are you noticing it in your own homes, sleep? So look, I don't want to repeat a whole bunch of things that you've already heard. Like you would have heard that doing this, and I know we're all guilty of it, when you're in bed and reading things, is not going to help you go to sleep. You might have, if you haven't, you might have heard of the research about the backlighting, and turning the dimmer thing down isn't going to help. It's really important to have, just like when they were babies, to have and it's not just important for them, but for us, to have a routine for sleep. I don't think it's wise to be really studying and focusing and then go from that to into bed, and I'm going to try to fall asleep. I think 15 to 30 minutes before we go to sleep, we need to start winding down. And if it's at all possible, ideally, off devices. Picking up a book, a magazine, and just starting to wind down and turning off digital gadgets around us. It's really important. The other thing around sleep is not hours of sleep. I mean, that's important, but what is more important in my mind, in my experience, are sleep cycles. So you're aware that when we go to sleep, we go through different sleep cycles. That's why maybe on the weekend or a holiday, you might have a little bit more sleep than you usually do and still wake up tired. And so there's an app called Sleep Cycle that I shared with the girls. And I also gave them an old school way of doing this. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. And I shared with them that every single day we go into natural trance states. You know what I mean? Here's a good example. When you're driving your car, yeah? Have you ever arrived at your destination and then wondered, how did I get here? We've all had this experience, right? So what's going on there? Well, our conscious mind is preoccupied, yeah? And our subconscious mind, extraordinarily powerful, is controlling the motor vehicle. Sounds scary, but it happens every day. The other time we have a natural trance state is when our head hits the pillow and you're in that half awake, half asleep state. You with me? Have you ever been in that state? Your head hits the pillow, you know you've got an early start to the morning, and then you might say something like, oh, I'm just going to be so tired in the morning. Have we been there? Have you done this? What happens in the morning? Are you tired? I shared with the girls a little mantra that I have, that I say to myself when my head hits the pillow. I'm going to get the right quality sleep so I can wake up feeling refreshed and reinvigorated. I asked the girls to write it down. They can use that or use their own language. And I said to them that about a month ago, someone said to me, does that really work? And I said, look, why would you ask me that question? So I challenged the girls. And I said to them, I want you to do this for 7 nights. So please go home and prompt them. Do it yourself and find out for yourself. I want you to do this for 7 nights and then stop and don't do it for 7 nights and then compare and contrast it and see the difference for yourself. I have done it and it's remarkable. It's a simple strategy that's going to help with sleep. Friends, I don't want to go on about exercise because we know it. What is most important to me that I've come to see is that exercise is absolutely critical for good mental health. I'm just wondering, have you heard of the research now that says that exercise can be just as effective as antidepressants in treating depression? Just a quick show of hands, have you heard of some of this research? For some people in some circumstances. So I said to the girls, if you do not have a habit of exercise, it's time to start. And it could be as simple as just a walk around the block. I mean, if you are doing absolutely nothing, you've got to start small and build into it. So of course, all of the stuff that I shared with the girls this afternoon is the same for us. Focus. Now, this is really important. I shared with the girls this afternoon that if we multitask, it drains energy and focus. I said to them, so if you see this, please don't freak out. I said to them, I would much rather you work in short sprints, 25 to 30 minutes, a 5-minute break, then you come back for another 25, 30 minutes, than trying to sit down for an hour and a half, but you're really not studying, you've got different browsers, you hit a ping on their phone, you're answering phones, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm saying if you study, study. When you have a break and don't worry about study. Don't be going, oh, I shouldn't be going out tonight. I'm here with my friends, but I'm so worried because I've got all these assignments I need to do. I mean, we've all been there. And so I'm saying be in the moment. When you are studying, focus. When you're out and you're enjoying yourself, be out and enjoy yourself. Don't contaminate the two, right? When you're studying and you're going, I wish I was actually having fun, and then when you're out having fun going, oh, I really need to study. And then the things we do to ourselves that drains and loses focus. When we are focusing on a simple task that doesn't require higher order thinking, and we're multitasking different browsers, you know what I'm talking about? It can add 20% to the length of time in getting the task done. If we're actually needing to focus on something that requires complicated thought, higher order thinking, and we're multitasking, it can double the length of time in getting the task done. So short sprints, focused sprints, I think are a good way to go. Connecting means connecting with other people and with nature. I said to the girls every single day, you should have time to laugh. And think about, did I have a good laugh today? And if you didn't, well then do something to make sure you have a good laugh. Every single day, we need to be able to switch off for a certain period of the day. And a lot of people say, well, I can't switch off because I've got so much to do. My mentor said to me, there's always things that need doing. So the secret is to give yourself permission to go, yes, I've got 10 things I need to get done, but I'm still going to just have a 10-minute break, right? To have some downtime, to switch off. Time in. We did a little 90-second meditation in the room. All of the girls did it, and they really liked it. Meditation is really important. Now, by the way, time in is not just meditation or mindfulness. It could be journaling. It's about the inner world, right? But I want to really focus on meditation and mindfulness. It's very, very important because all stress and anxiety, when you think about it, lives in the past or the future. And meditation uses our senses, the breath. You can be walking and meditating, just paying attention to your heel and toe as it hits the ground. You could be washing a plate and paying attention to the water. You could be, how many times are we in the shower in the morning and we're already at work? And so to actually be in the shower and feel the water and what it feels like on our skin, the smell of the soap or the shampoo, using our senses is the quickest way to bring us back to the present moment. Stress and anxiety lives in the past and the future. And a lot of people just go, I don't know, what do you mean by that? Well, let me ask you this. When you hear people interviewed because they ran into a house that was on fire, or they throw themselves into the surf to pull someone out of a rip, and they're interviewed, they're usually asked, you know, what an amazing thing you did. You know, what were you thinking? What do they say? I wasn't, right? And when I was doing this at Dapto High School, one of the young male PDHBE staff said to me, Rocky, what you said is 100% true. I go, what makes you say that? He said, I'm not sure if you heard about it in the media. This was last year I was there. He said, I'm not sure if you heard about it in the media, but there was a shark attack. My mate and I were surfing, and he was attacked by a shark. And, you know, I had to paddle to him and get him to shore. And my girlfriend's a nurse, and he said, I think she saved his life just to stop the blood flow. He's recovering. And I went, wow. And he said to me, everyone just says to me, did you see the shark? Yes, I saw the shark. And then they go, what were you thinking? I wasn't. He said, I just knew I needed to get him back to shore. That's all I knew. But if he was on his surfboard weighing up the pros and cons, you know, so this is what we mean by stress and anxiety are in the past and the future. In the moment, we've got problems, but we don't put time to make it an anxiety. Does that make sense? In the moment, we have challenges. But when we put time, past and future, we turn that challenge into a problem. I also spoke to the girls that our mornings are the most important part of the day. The way you start the day has a massive flow-on effect for the rest of the day. And then I asked them, 0, your mornings are terrible. You wake up tired and exhausted, chaotic, rushed. 10, your mornings are fantastic. You've got time to get up and have a good breakfast, maybe have a workout or exercise. You could do some things to pamper yourself in the morning. 10, 0, mornings aren't that great. We didn't have many students that had 7 and up. There was probably about 20. And there was quite a few that had below 4. Then I asked for some volunteers. One girl was a 2, right? And I said to them a really simple thing, and you can do this with your daughters. So she actually came up and I said to her, we did a little coaching thing. So right now you're a 2. And she said yes. And I said, what would be one simple thing that you can easily do that can move you from a 2 to a 3? She said, well, go to bed earlier. And then I said, well, why would you want to do that? I said, I'm sure you've been nagged to death about go to bed, go to bed. So you've heard this. This is not news. Why are you telling me now, go to bed earlier? And she said, because I'll wake up tired and then I have a fight with mum. And she said, I wake up and she said, I'm dead. I can't even open my eyes when I'm walking to the bathroom. These are the things she's saying to me. And I said to her, so why would you want to go to bed earlier? And here's the tip I want to give you. Don't tell, ask. Have you noticed? When you tell them what to do, what happens? Talk to me. Yeah, they don't do it. But when you ask, they'll give you an answer, like I did. What needs to happen to move from 2 to a 3? I've got to go to bed earlier. Now, when they say, I've got to go to bed earlier, that's not enough. So when you ask and they give you something about what they could do to make life better for them, always follow up with why. And so this is what I did with her. Well, why would you want to go to bed early? And she would tell me. And the more powerful the reasons, the more motivated for them to actually do that, right? So setting up your day in the morning is very, very important. Think about what routines you can put in place in the mornings to help them out there. And we also talked about anchoring positive emotion. And that is, I said to them, identify, let me see if I can, this is slide 20. I said to the girls, I want you to identify one emotion that's going to help you when it comes to doing exams. Confidence, relaxation, being positive. So they identified the emotion. Then I said to them, identify an experience, a memory where you felt confident, relaxed, or positive. So they identified the emotion, then they identified the experience, and then I said to them, associate it with any one of these things. Touch, sound, feelings, words. So we had students that would come up with a trigger word that would bring up that memory. I gave them an example. So I have a trigger word that brings me back to this. Down at the mid-north coast over the summer break, this is the first time my daughter was flying a kite on the beach. And so that's a positive memory of mine, and I can trigger that. I've got a process where I've got a certain touch. I might use my thumb and finger. I can do that, say a word, and it brings me right back there. And an example of this is what marketers do. I said to the girls this afternoon, when will you start hearing Christmas carols in the shopping centres? September, right? And that's what they do, don't they? The Christmas carols, the Christmas decorations, they start triggering, the purchase for that, and to try to get it happening earlier and earlier. We can do the same sort of thing. So we talked about meditation and mindfulness. And ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to talk to you also about achievement and the fact that this is linked between skill and mindset. And skill is what they're doing here every single day. And I wanted to maybe just finish off the last few minutes that we have together with mindset and just share with you a couple of things. First of all, Daniel Coyle. Students who see other students achieve high academic achievement awards, oftentimes dismiss it as, oh, they're just smart. That's how they achieved that. And Daniel Coyle, he sort of wrote off that myth in this book, The Talent Code. He spoke about in this video, it only goes for a short amount of time, how on a single indoor tennis court in a tiny town called Spartak outside of Moscow, get this, they produced more top 10 tennis players than the entire United States. It's extraordinary. So what he has done is traveled the world. He calls them talent hotbeds to find out what's going on there. So have a listen.
Well, he gave a great talk about greatness isn't born, it's grown. What does talent have to do with practice?
Your brain is built to grow in certain ways. And if you practice in a way that's aligned with that, if you go to the edge of your ability, and make mistakes and fix and repeat and reach over and over again, right on the edge, you learn much, much faster. That type of practice is what we see at the talent hotbeds, and it's the kind of idea that we can steal to use in our own lives.
So you talked a lot about practice, and what is effective practice?
It has to do with isolating the skill that you want to get good at. When I visited some of these talent hotbeds, I saw some crazy sights. I would go to a place, there's a tiny club outside of Moscow called Spartak, where they've produced more top 10 players in the last 10 years than the entire United States on a single indoor court. What are they doing there? They're swinging in slow motion. They're slowing the motion down. They remove the ball. They don't use the ball. They simply work on that swing, making small fixes. They use speed. They slow it down to magnify their errors, to really, really see what they're doing wrong. Because what you learn when you go to these talent hotbeds is that mistakes aren't really mistakes. Mistakes are information.
And I think that's critical. And we're on slide 34 here, if you're following with me. And one of the key concepts I shared with the girls is that mistakes and failure, don't be scared of that. It's not personal like we started talking about at the beginning of the presentation. It's information. Information about what? Typically, it's about how to get better. And this feeds into, remember at the beginning we spoke about identity beliefs? And Carol Dweck wrote this book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. I highly recommend it if you haven't already seen it. She speaks about in this book two mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. The fixed mindset has this belief that your intelligence is a fixed trait and you can't change it. It's a little bit like when we went to school, when they go, your IQ, that's your IQ for life, right? Now we know with neuroplasticity and the studies around the brain that our brains change. Neural pathways are created. The growth mindset says that you can grow your intelligence through effort and skill, right? There are some consequences for a fixed or growth mindset, and I'll quickly want to run through these with you. Excuse me. The first one is, what's the goal in school? Well, for a fixed mindset, the student just wants to look smart. You see, the fixed mindset student thinks, I can do it or I can't. And if I can't do it, well, there's no point in really trying because I can't do it. And so they want to protect how smart they look. And of course, for the growth mindset, they want to learn. That's their goal. And what about effort? Well, of course, by the way, let me give you some of the language that students speak about. So the main thing I want when I do my schoolwork is to show how good I am at it. For the growth mindset, it's much more important for me to learn things in my classes than it is to get the best grades. What about effort? Well, of course, with the fixed mindset, they don't think effort is important. In fact, they devalue it. Oh, if I've got to struggle and I've got to put in effort, that means I'm not very smart at it. Fixed mindset. And yet, that's the quality that's going to help them in their life, is this perseverance through difficulty, one of the qualities. And of course, the growth mindset values effort. Let's look at the language. So with students, they say, to tell you the truth, when I work hard at my schoolwork, it makes me feel like I'm not very smart. And with the growth mindset, they say, the harder you work at something, the better you'll be at it. We want our young people to develop a growth mindset. And how do they react to failure? Well, of course, the fixed mindset student, they give up because I can or I can't. And the growth mindset, well, then they work harder. Let's look at the language. The fixed mindset says, I'd spend less time on this subject from now on because I'm no good at it, so what's the point? I'd try not to take this subject ever again, and get this, I'd try to cheat on the next test. Because results are the most important thing. Doesn't matter whether I've learnt it or not, I just want to get the result. Of course, growth mindset, I'd work harder in this class from now on, and I'd spend more time studying for the tests. And when it comes to achievement, typically fixed mindset students have lower achievement, growth mindset students higher achievement. Let me just finish up tonight by sharing 3 strategies that can help with a growth mindset. The first one is to prompt, I shared this with the girls also, is to prompt ourselves and our students with the word yet. So when my daughter says, I can't do this, I go, yes. So by the way, friends, can I say to you, when they say, I can't do this, you can't do it yet. Don't do, yes you can do it, just work harder. Because when you go, yes you can, what do they say? No, I can't. And I don't know about you, but this tug of war, yes, no, is exhausting. So when my daughter says to me, I can't do this, I say, clearly, you can't do it yet. Would you like to learn how to do it? Do you want to work hard to try to get better at this? Ask the questions, don't tell them, yeah? So yet is the first one. The second thing is feedback. So important. My daughter came home from school with a trophy. She was in primary school. I think she was in year 4. So I come home, she goes, Daddy, look at this. In year 4, what are they? They're 8, 9 years old, something like that. Look at this, she's got this trophy. And I said to her, that's fantastic. And I pick her up, I give her a hug, I go, what'd you get this for? She goes, I came first in cross country. Fantastic, you know, that's... And then she gets the trophy and she starts doing a little jig. She goes, because I was the best, and she's putting this trophy out there and talking about how great she was. So I thought this is a really good opportunity to see if I can put a little bit of growth mindset. So I took the trophy and I dropped my tone and my energy and I went, yeah, I'm not really that fussed about this. When I did this with your daughters this afternoon, they went, oh, which is exactly what my daughter did. Dad! And then I said to her, no, let me explain. Tell me this. When you were running, was it hard to breathe? She says, yes, Dad, I had a stitch. And then I said to her, what about your legs, your muscles? Was it hard? Were your muscles burning? Were they sore? And she said, yes. I said, tell me, what about your friends? Did some of them walk or even stop? And she said, well, some of them did. I picked her up, I twirled her around, and I said, that's what I'm really excited about. That's what I'm really proud of. Because it was hard to breathe and you kept running. Your legs were sore and you didn't quit. Your friends stopped and you didn't follow them. You led, you persevered. What did I do, friends? I put the focus on the process. Remember we spoke about that earlier? The process of performance. What I need to do to get the performance, not the first or last or second. Because I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, the following year, I don't even think she got a place. So what am I going to say? I'm not proud of you? I actually said to her, did you run when it was hard to breathe? Did you keep running when your legs were sore? Did you keep running even though your friends stopped? And she said, I did all of that. And I said, whether you came first or whether you came last, I'm proud that you did that. Yes? The focus needs to be on the process, not the end result. So when you give feedback, don't just, they come home with an A or a 90 and go, that's fantastic. What I would rather hear you say is, wow, that's a really good result. What did you do to get that result? And get them to tell you what they did to produce the result. Focus on the process of performance. And of course, the last thing is learning from mistakes, learning from failure, not running from them and not being scared of them. And to summarize what we've spoken about tonight, I would say to you that, believe it or not, well-being, all the research is showing, is key to elite performance. What it does is, when you're in a good state of well-being, it affects your mental and emotional state. When your mental and emotional state is up rather than down, is positive rather than negative, it feeds into your learning strategy and what you do, the process of performance. And of course, it feeds into your mindset, the story you tell yourself about yourself. Remember, we started with that, I can or I can't, I'm good or I'm not. And when we've got good well-being, we've got good state, strategy and story, then that leads to positive performance. It was really wonderful being with you tonight, and I'm happy to hang around and answer questions. Are there any, usually when I do this and I go, any questions, people, there are no questions. But I mean, I'm happy to take them now, but I'm also happy to take them. Some people need to go home and be with your children, and some people want to hang. If you want to hang around and ask me questions, I'm more than happy to do that.